By 1944, the coast of occupied Europe was a death trap. Field Marshal Rommel knew the Allied invasion was coming, and his strategy was simple: stop them on the beaches. To do it, he planted millions of mines. We aren't just talking about a few scattered explosives. German minefields were hundreds of meters deep, packed with teller mines, anti-tank discs packed with TNT that could rip the belly out of any vehicle heavier than a motorcycle. For the Allies, this was a mathematical nightmare. Clearing mines by hand meant engineers crawling on their stomachs with bayonets, prodding the dirt while machine gun fire swept over their heads. It took 2 minutes to clear a single mine. At that rate, clearing one lane would take 10 hours, and that assumes the engineer survived. Nobody did. The Allies needed a miracle, or at least something mechanical. The insane solution. The solution didn't come from a high-tech lab, but from a South African officer named Abraham du Toit. His idea was elegantly brutal. Instead of trying to carefully detect the mines, why not just beat the ground until they exploded? He envisioned a spinning drum attached to the front of a tank fitted with heavy steel chains. As the drum spun, the chains would hammer the earth like a giant flail, detonating any mines in its path, while the crew sat safely inside the armor. Early prototypes were a disaster. They used separate engines to power the flail, which made the tanks too wide, too hot, and too unreliable. But then, British engineers had a breakthrough. They took the most reliable tank they had, the American Sherman, and rigged the flail to run directly off the tank's main engine. They called it the Sherman Crab, the beast in action. The Sherman Crab was a monster. It carried a drum with 43 heavy chains, each ending in a fist-sized steel ball. When spinning at 142 revolutions per minute, these chains whipped the ground with enough force to detonate mines buried 5 inches deep. It wasn't pretty. When the flail was active, the noise was deafening. The spinning chains kicked up a blinding cloud of dust and debris, forcing the driver to navigate by compass because he literally couldn't see out the window. The tank had to crawl at a walking pace, about 1 to 2 miles per hour. Any faster, and the chains would miss spots. It also had one major flaw. While the flail was spinning, the turret had to be turned backward to protect the main gun from flying debris. That meant the tank was defenseless while clearing mines. But despite the drawbacks, it worked. It beat a safe path through hell. The D-Day difference. The real test came on June 6, 1944, D-Day. The British 79th Armored Division, led by the eccentric General Percy Hobart, deployed these funnies to Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches. As the ramp dropped, the crabs rolled out, thrashing the sand. Defenders watched in horror as these mechanical beasts chewed through minefields that were supposed to be impassable. On Gold Beach, the crabs cleared safe lanes within 20 minutes of landing. They didn't just clear mines, they tore through barbed wire and intimidated the enemy. But at Omaha Beach, the story was different. The U.S. commanders were skeptical of British gadget tanks and worried about the logistics of spare parts. As a result, the U.S. forces landed at Omaha without crabs. The infantry faced the minefields with nothing but rifles and courage. The result was a bloodbath, with over 2,000 casualties in the first few hours. The contrast was stark. Where the crabs went, the troops moved inland. Where they didn't, the invasion almost stalled. Legacy of brute force. The Sherman Crab wasn't perfect. The chains broke constantly, sometimes after just 40 mines. The crews were deafened and shaken, but they did the job. By the end of the war, the value of mechanical mine clearing was undeniable. The 22nd Dragoons alone lost 34 men, a heavy price, but they saved thousands of infantry who would have otherwise been sacrificed to clear those beaches. Today, if you look at modern mine-clearing vehicles used in places like Ukraine, you'll still see the DNA of the Sherman Crab. They are sleeker and often unmanned now, but the principle remains the same.
Smash that like button and subscribe for more secrets like this. See you next time.